Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's Mike and Blaine. This is episode 210. Blaine loves those round numbers, 210, 210, 210. I'm Mike Mylan, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is my partner, Blaine Birch, the CEO of Dry Run. What's up, my man?
I'm ready to dive in. I was actually just typing in and looking up this beer that I'm drinking today because I realized, like, I don't know who these guys are at all. And but kind of a cool one, little nano brewery out of Vancouver, BC. So yeah, excited to profile these guys.
Yeah, right on. So, let's talk about it, right? Because if you haven't heard this show before, right, it's about business, beer, and BS. We always kind of start off by promoting, kind of previewing a local or craft beer. We always try to give somebody a little bit of props there. And we do have beer sponsors. People actually buy us beer, and we talk about you at the beginning of the show. So that's kind of where we're starting at today. So you already talked about your beers, and my turn, or are you talking about it? There you go.
I'm going to show you who this is. I'm trying to dry this off so you can see it better. Changing Colors Brewing Project Holiday EXP, I think it's maybe extra special. I don't know, hoppy ale. And it's out of a nano brewery out of Vancouver, BC. Yeah. So I found it in the fridge and thought, hey, that's kind of a cool beer. I haven't tried that one before. So we're going to.
What's a nano brewery? Is that like a teeny tiny, like, in the bedroom type of brewery?
I think it might be. I'm guessing they probably don't have a brew pub or anything yet. Yeah, I think that's probably what it is, or maybe, I don't know, chat came up with this. Yeah, it says small operation focus on crafting highly specialized and unique beers. So I'm not sure if these guys actually have I'm just going to take a quick look at their, oh, now I can't get to it because I have to log into Instagram or something. So, well, anyway, it's, yeah.
Yeah, so I consider one of our beer sponsors, Neighbor Pat, to be a nano brewery, right? He just does it right down at the house and produces beer just for the neighborhood, I guess, and some friends. And he actually does sell some beer every once in a while. So it's pretty good that he's got one customer that makes this English beer, and he can do that. And speaking of Neighbor Pat, so the King of the Hill gang got together last night. We haven't been together in a long time. Now you're like, going, what do you mean King of the Hill gang, right? So we live kind of on a hill, and there's four of us. Right. And so we call ourselves the King of the Hill, where one of us is, the cartoon I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. I've seen every episode. I've even seen the new season. I know that one inside out. Man.
Okay. Yeah. So, you got Dale, and you got Boomhauer, and you got Bob, and you got, what's the main character's name?
Hank.
You got Hank. Yeah. So
that boy ain't right.
Yeah, that's what we call ourselves, right? Is the King of the Hill gang. So we all came down and played some bags last night. And can you guess the ending?
Neighbor Pat won by a mile?
No, not at all. I mean, matter of fact, I thought there was a point in time I was going, oh my God, he's going to get skunked again. And this time with three people playing, which is super hard to do, to not score 1 point with three people were playing. We made it over halfway through the game without him scoring a point. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. We're going to skunk Pat. Now he scored 2 points. And so he didn't get skunked. But yeah, he still lost again. There's something wrong with that boy.
Pat, you know what? Next time you play, Pat, try playing left-handed, because I think maybe you just have a bit of the, what do they call them when like a ball player gets the jitters or whatever, and they can't.
Yeah, the yips, right?
The yips, that's what it is.
Yeah, the yips. Yeah. Hey, well, here's what he did. All right, so, Thomas lives across the street, not neighbor Thomas, says, hey, why don't you try to hold your beer in one hand and throw it with the other hand? And he did that instead of putting it down. That's how he scored his points. Oh, yeah.
Just relaxing.
Either that or balancing them, right? He didn't have enough weight on that one side.
You don't want to get mixed up and throw the wrong hand. You got a beer flying across the yard.
Yeah, that's fine. So good. So here's what I've got today. I found one by Modern Times, and I've had them before. Modern Times got one that's called Art of Mist. I thought it was ant missile. Yeah, it looks like
from my
It looks
So it wasn't
backwards.
bad missile.
Does it look backwards to you? It looks backwards on the thing.
No, it looks right to me. I think it just shows you in the mirror, but
Oh, got it. All right, but I thought it was a cool can, right? Usually you have the cool cans, and so I
That's
thought,
a
man,
beautiful
that's a really
can.
cool can. Yeah, it's really well done. And I did it because, to me, today's topic, cutting expenses in your business, is kind of like mist. It's just like, there's stuff that happens. I've been calling, with this new client of mine, I've been calling it growth exhaust, stuff that just kind of accumulates behind you as you're moving forward. Well, now we're moving from like going identifying what's exhaust to, hey, what do we get rid of? How do we clear the noise and cut through the mist, right? So we can see the future. So that's why I thought it was a good one for today. It's called Art of Mist. So
perfect.
cool.
It's a beautiful can. And I was in Modern Times Brewing in Encinitas, California last spring. They got a Modern Times like right there, and it was fun. It was kind of a neat little experience. It's got a kind of the same vibe as that can inside the place. It feels a little 70s ish and kind of funky and kind of fun. Neat spot. But we got to thank all of our beer sponsors before we dive into the topic. If you guys are watching for the first time, if you want to sponsor an episode, it is the best deal on the planet. $5 an episode. Go to mikeandblaine.com, buy us a beer. We'll mention you. A lot of our beer sponsors, they go all the way through to the end of the year. And I'm going to start off with Rachel Barnett from Gentle Frog. If you have a business and you need to know how to use QBO, go to gentlefrog.com, or better yet, go to her YouTube channel, YouTube at Gentle Frog, and you'll learn everything you need to know about QBO.
Yeah, right on. We got Karen Hairston, right? So she's our Amazon bestseller, right? That's also one of our beer sponsors. She just released a book called Stop Growing Broke and Start Growing Profit. And I tell you, she's actually one of my beta testers. I told you I'm doing a new update to the app, right? So I don't know if I've showed it to you or not, but I'm doing a new update, and I just put it out in beta. So I've got probably 15 folks kind of trying to break it, right? That's what they're trying to do, is break it, which is what we're looking for. And she's one of those. So I really appreciate all the work she puts in for me and the cash flow of my community.
I am going to thank Neighbor Pat for you, because you're just giving him shit over his plain bags. And, I want you to know, Pat, that I appreciate you, even if Mike just gives you hell all the time, for bringing Mike beer all the time. And one of these days I'll get to try it. So thanks again.
Yeah, there you go.
Appreciate it.
And let me introduce you to the cash flow cowboy out of Houston, Texas. His name is Larry Weinstein, the best CPA in Texas. You can visit him at the cashflowranch.com, cashflowranch.com. And I'll tell you what, I learned something about him this week I didn't know. He is a big Chicago fan, not Chicago the city, Chicago the band, right? And so, yeah, so there is this, he calls it a Russian kind of cover band of Chicago, Chicago tunes. And he says they're better than Chicago. They're better at Chicago's own songs.
Really?
Yeah. So he's like, he's texting me like going, they're going to be in San Antonio. I guess he's seen this cover band like 3 times. It's just all over the place. And they keep graduating up to bigger and bigger spaces. They're playing at the Aztec here in San Antonio, which is about 1,100 people. And that,
wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty big venue for, a cover band, I would think.
That is, for a cover band, that is pretty big place. So Chicago, I don't think they've been together for a while, have they? So it's not like the real band is still touring. So maybe it's just because it's the only place you can see something like that, I guess.
So he was so disappointed in me, because I'm like going, dude, if I heard a song, I would know the song, but I can't tell you one song of theirs. I can't. I don't know why. You got
I can't off the top of my head, but I know I've heard him. I know I've heard a bunch. Is the lead singer Peter Cetera? Is that the name of the lead singer? I think it is.
You better ask Chelsea on that one. I just don't know. You'd have to ask Chelsea.
But I can't picture an actual song from them. It wasn't quite my vibe when I was younger. I was probably a little bit more, long hair banging around, so I'm not sure. While you're looking that up, though, I'm also going to thank our last beer sponsor here, Devin, superstar that appeared on Netflix. Biggest LSU fan on the planet. Thanks again, Devin. Really appreciate all the support,
dude. You're dead on. Now, first of all, yeah, there is it's been around since 1967 and still going.
Still going? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
still going. But think about this. I think of the originals. All right, so Peter Cetera was there. Robert Lamb, Terry Kath, Annie, Seraphine, James
None of them
Pankow, Lee.
don't even
Those are
sound
the
familiar
original.
to me.
There were 7 original members. And currently, as of 25, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 of them in the band right now, Chicago. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 are the originals. So I would still call that, from 1967 to now, and they still have 3 of the original members. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, because there's bands out there that I think have actually probably completely flipped over. I don't know if there's anyone original on Leonard Skinner anymore, but I think there's some version of them are still playing. I think that's some of those bands, they've been around so long that all the originals have long since gone. But the replacements have been around so long that it's just part of the band now, I guess.
So I guess they won a Grammy for If You Leave Me Now. If I heard it, I might go, oh, yeah, I heard that one. But I don't know. Dude,
It doesn't even sound familiar to me.
I
don't think I could name a song, but I think I'd recognize it if I heard one. I just don't think it's quite my vibe. I don't know how I knew the lead singer. I just think that band trivia stuff, right? I kind of know that stuff.
Yeah, so crazy. Yeah, so the original name was Chicago Transit Authority, and then they changed it to Chicago.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Super interesting. All right. So
weird. Oh, weird. Okay. Weird little bit of trivia. One of my old neighbors at one time was the head of Chicago Transit. He actually was.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, he was. He was the head of Chicago Transit. And then he was
interesting
in New York State as well. And then somehow came all the way up to Canada here, back in Edmonton, where he was originally from. So he was our city manager in Edmonton a long, long time.
All right, so apparently all we did was flip-flop. Usually we do all this BS at the end of the show. We did it at the beginning of the show today.
That's true. Oh, yeah, we got a topic? Okay, I guess we better dive into something.
There is a topic. All right, so the topic, right, is something I'm just deep into right now, and it's about cutting expenses in your business. And I'm deep into it. Again, I think I've been talking about this company I started working with, and they've got all this growth exhaust, which is just stuff that happens and gets kind of left behind. But what you also notice when you're growing and moving fast is that there's stuff you continue to pay for even when you don't use it anymore. It's just there. You're like, oh, nobody thought to shut it off, or nobody thought to stop paying for it or stop bringing it in. So I want to talk about, cutting expenses, what's fat, what's muscle, what to cut, what not to cut, some horror stories that maybe you had and I had, and we'll start from there. What's your experience with cutting expenses?
Man, it's I can't imagine in a really substantial size business how much money is wasted, because even in a small business, stuff sneaks by. And it's hard. It's hard to catch it all because you have to stay on top of it and you have to look over everything. And I think the biggest problem is there's oftentimes a disconnect. So my bookkeeper, my accountant, they see all of my expenses. I do, but I don't track them to the level that they would. But they don't know what we're actually using. They just see the numbers, right? I'm the one that actually should be going in at least probably quarterly and just spending a half a day combing through and going, are we spending money on stuff that we're not using? Because there's, I'm sure, a lot of wastage. I've found it myself in the last few years. It's even come up on the show a few times where I found things we're paying for, and then we had committed to a year long for something, auto renewed for a year on something we hadn't used in 2 years. That stuff just drives me nuts.
Yeah. So I love doing annual subscriptions because you save some money. But then I hate that I forget that, oh my God, I forget that they're there. So let me start at the beginning, like when to cut expenses, right? This is kind of where I always kind of start. And I've got this technique I call the mini P&L, or mini income statement. And what it does is it clears all the noise. If you look at some people's just income statements, it has all the stuff, right? It has all the raw materials, raw labor, and then it has utilities and rent and office supplies and all these things in it. And what I've noticed when I'm working with small business owners is that they get distracted by the details, right? They just, they get focused on something like, on what? That's what we're paying in salaries, or that's what we paid in interest expense. There's always something that they focus on. I say, hey, that's not what we're doing right now. We want to see if we should cut expenses. And so I use this mini P&L to just kind of cut through that noise. And the mini P&L just shows sales, cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating expense, net profit, just as totals, right? And then I kind of set it up like a Sudoku. You know how to say that? Yeah. Like I set it up like it's that type of puzzle, right? And you know, the whole thing about those puzzles is only one number can fit in a box. So when I show it to the client, I'll put those 5 categories, then I'll put the dollar amount, draw a line, and then next to the dollar amount, I put it as a percentage of sales. Right. So a percentage of sales. So, and then you can compare it like going, well, if I'm trying to get 25% gross profit and I'm at 22% gross profit, well, then I know that the problem's in my cost of goods sold or my pricing, right? I know where the problem is. If my cost or my gross profit is at 25% like I want, but my net profit is not where I want it to be, then I know the problem's in operating expense, right? So it kind of, that helps us say, okay, yeah, we need to look up top in cost of goods sold, or we need to look in operating expense. And then I give kind of a lesson on fixed and variable expenses. And meaning variable expenses are those ones that are in cost of goods sold. They move with sales. The only reason you pay them is just because of sales. And then fixed expenses is I have to pay it. Even if I sell 0, I still have to pay that. So that's where it starts. I mean, it sounds like you do the same thing.
Yeah. And like, I don't know if I've analyzed it in exactly the same way, but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And a lot of times for our business, I'm usually looking at the expenses at the bottom. And that's where I'm like, we can really work on that as we figure out where exactly our pricing fits and how all of that works. We're not at the point where we can be super tight on what's the exact percentage of a margin we're targeting right now, right? So it's very much below the line to figure out, okay, what's our net at the end. That's kind of the area that I focus on a lot. So
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I point that out is some people are like going, if you want to make money, you just cut expenses. Well, sometimes that's not the right move, right? It's just not the right move. So I always try to say, is it a pricing thing or what we're paying our vendors, or is it the operating expense? So in this case, in this real case, right, it's the operating expense, right? Because I actually have a pretty solid and consistent gross profit. Now, gross profit is the amount of money you have to spend. So if you look at an income statement, and I know you already know this, but I'm just kind of teaching the audience that if you look at your income statement, the most important number on that income statement is gross profit. It is the only place you can get cash to pay for your expenses and put in your pocket. You can't spend sales. That's only going to tell you how much work you did. You can spend gross profit. So that's the one that you have to pay attention to. What you have to do from there is say, that's all the money I can spend. If that's all I'm going to bring in is that gross profit amount, that's all I can spend. And so that's where you got to start. You don't start with, I'm $1 million company because of sales. You start with, I'm a $200,000 company because of gross profit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I agree with you. I put as much weight on net because I think a lot of times companies are like, oh, we've got such a big profit margin, and then they don't pay attention to all the expenses below the line, and then it's their net profit is, because that's literally at the end of the day, that's just what you have left. And if you're burning cash, it's probably an expense. But the problem could be anywhere. But it's like those two numbers are just so critical. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what do you have left? What's your net profit? Like, what is left over after everything else? And it's just it's also, it's an important number to really watch as well, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you talk about net profit, I mean, this is where I see people's lights come on because they go, man, I made all this money. How come I don't have any? And it's not always about timing. Some of it's about timing. There's another thing that robs your net profit from you, right? And well, really 2 big things. One is you're taking too much out for yourself. Like, hey, I had a little extra money. I'm gonna go to Cabo. Or 2, your debt payments don't come out of your income statement. So you see the profit, but the profit is what's used to make your long-term debt payments. So if you've taken on debt, like a truck loan or a mortgage or any of those type of things, that money is paid out of profit. So you take the profit and subtract out whatever your debt payments are. And that's why it's a more realistic number of what you should have or what you have left to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, and I think where you wanted to focus today was more on the expense side, right? So not necessarily the pricing or what you're paying your vendors or suppliers or whatever, but that is one of those places where there's always some dust in the corner. Like there's always something where businesses are just blowing cash and just they don't see it. They don't see it, and you get to the end of the year and you could be going like, wow, 2 or 3% of our revenue was just fleshed out the bottom on stuff we don't need. Like, can you imagine that? Like how much that's profit margin, that is net profit at the end of the year that would be sitting there, and you just, oh, we got an extra bit of money, so we'll I don't know, buy another van for whatever, right? Like just blow cash, right, on stuff you don't need.
Yeah. So I did want to focus on operating expense, but I think you got to, I had to start with, hey, it's not cost of goods sold. It's not net profit because of debt and those type of things. It's the things that you spend just to make your business run, right? And it's supposed to be things you spend to generate revenue. Right? These are the things I do. I have this office or I have this truck or whatever because I'm trying to generate revenue. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is you have to watch what you cut and not cut the wrong things. The whole title was trim fat and not muscle. One of the things I tell people is that you can't cut the things that drive your revenue, right? You can't cut it, because if you cut the things that are driving your revenue, you're also cutting your revenue. And we got time for a story? All right.
Yeah,
So
well,
let me tell you a story. 2008, right? 2008. I was running bar restaurants back then, and that was the year that the bankers burnt the world down, right? Just kind of did everything. Well,
remember it well. Yeah.
People were losing houses, losing jobs, those type of things. I mean, everything was just falling apart. And I'm in the bar restaurant business. Well, people don't have that discretionary money to go to the restaurant or go to the bar to buy their beer. They can just go to the gas station and buy their beer and take it home, right? And save a little bit of money. Well, when that happens, I'm like, going, wait a second, we're gonna be hurt. We're not gonna have as much business. We're gonna take a hit in sales. So I started to cut labor because that was kind of one of my bigger expenses. Not have as many people on staff, because I'm like, oh, well, if we don't have as many customers, we don't need as many people to service customers, right? That was the thought process. So I cut labor, and we didn't just fire people. We just said, as people quit or attrited or did whatever, we just didn't either replace them or we replaced them with part-timers. That's kind of what we did. The person next door, right? There's another big expense in bars that people don't really think about, but it's a huge amount of money out of the bar on a weekly basis. And it's usually classified as marketing expense. And what it really is, it's karaoke, it's live bands, it's direct ticket or Sunday ticket, direct TV Sunday ticket. It's pay-per-view fights. Hey, did you know, like the pay-per-view fights and things like that, when they charge a bar restaurant, you know how they charge them?
Not a clue.
Off of the number that's on the wall that the fire marshal gives.
Ouch.
So what's the capacity? Yeah. So because they say, hey, listen, you could have 99 people in here watching this pay-per-view fight. So they have tiers based on that number that's on there, right? So, the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight was a kind of a big one. I had a friend running the bar back then, and it cost him $3,500 for like a 3,000 square foot building. $3,500 for one fight. So, when people have cover charges, it isn't just extra money for the bar. They're actually trying to cover the band or the cost of doing that. Well, the person next door to me cut that out, right? Says, hey, we're just not going to have live bands. Live bands are expensive. We're not going to have, karaoke anymore. We're not going to, all these little things that just said, we're just going to cut that out. People will come in. I saw it in real time. This guy only lasted about 120 days after he made that decision. Think about that. You killed your business in 120 days during 2008. Here was the visual I got. I come up. His bar is right next to mine. My bar, lights, music, line out the door. His bar, 3 old guys sitting at the bar watching soccer. Which one do you go to?
Yeah.
Saturday night. Yeah. You go where the music, if you're going to go to a bar and all that, you want the excitement, you want the stuff. Or you go to watch soccer until the line goes down. Right? You don't want to stay in line. But that's what it was. He took away people's reasons to come to his bar. He took away the reason to be there, to listen to the band, to watch NFL Sunday Ticket or whatever it is. If you take away people's reasons to buy, they'll stop buying. Trust me. I mean, so that's the point that I want to get to today.
Well, and I think sometimes people look at that as it's hard to draw a line sometimes, that direct attribution, and say, did this generate? How much money did this generate? Because I can see this is how much I make per beer, this is how much I make per burger, whatever. That seems like all expense. But if that's what's bringing your customers in, it's everything to you, right? And I kind of get it. Like, I've never had a hospitality business, but my creative agency days, I could, like, there were staff members I have that were directly billable. They were billed within projects. They were generating the money. But then you had other staff, like support staff and admin, that were not directly billable, or a small portion of it directly billable, right? But that didn't mean that they were less valuable or the first place to cut, because it's like, yeah, but it makes everything else run smooth. It means that we can keep business coming in and we can keep projects moving, and we can, and so that was, you have to be really cautious of that. But there were areas where you're like, okay, that's just a straight up expense. It has to be done, but it's not contributing to making money. Those were the hardest, I think, to spend.
Yeah, I think that's right. So, I mean, determining what the drivers are of revenue it's a hard exercise, right? I mean, it's like, man, if I cut that, will I lose sales? But in his case, that's a direct marketing thing. I mean, you should be able to draw a straight line between no band, no people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's not always that easy, but in this case it is. And he just was probably cash strapped, didn't have a cash reserve. And we've talked about that in the past where, it's 3 to 6 months operating expense. So if you have, $10,000 a month that you spend on stuff like that, like bands and stuff, then you should have $30,000 to $60,000 just in case something turns. It buys you time. Here's the thing about 3 to 6 months. People ask me, well, how do I know if it's 3 or how do I know if it's 6? Well, it depends on how stable your business is. How predictable is it? If it's pretty predictable and the revenue line is pretty solid, then it's 3 months. You can get away with less of a reserve because there's some predictability to it. The more volatile your business, the bigger the cash reserve you should have, right? Because you don't know when the next spike is going to happen. So that to me is the differentiation between go to 3, go to 6.
And the challenge, because our business, when I had the agency business, it was much more lumpy. You'd be overwhelmed with work and at capacity and not selling because we're so busy. Like I'm, all hands on deck. I'm helping out doing stuff because we got so much work. The feeling though, the problem is it's never going to end. And that it's so easy to overcommit and to spend money and to expand without really understanding what's over the horizon on your sales pipeline. And where things started to get a little bit easier for me to understand is when I could forecast out not just our cash flow and everything, but our sales pipeline. And that brought reality, because you're thinking, just because we're busy today doesn't mean we're busy 3 months from now, 6 months from now.
It's funny. One of my favorite campaigns you did was the mashed potato ones. And you just used the words lumpy. And I'll tell you, if you guys don't know about it, so Dry Run actually helps solve lumpy cash flow, or that was one of your original things that you did. So, hey, tell us about Dry Run, because I mean that was, first of all, tell them about the advertising campaign or the campaign you did using the mashed potatoes, because I thought that was funny.
Yeah, we had one of our customers who's a really talented video production company, Guy Bauer. Umalt is the name of the company, and they did a spot for us, and it was. You just had to see it. It was, but the licensing's up, so I can't even put it on our page. But it was just this guy making a point of a lumpy cash flow, and he was pouring this gravy out on potatoes. And I can't remember the line anymore, how it worked, but it was so well done. Go check out Umalt. They've done amazing stuff. But let me tell you a little bit about Dry Run. So if you are a CFO or your finance team and you're buried in spreadsheets, you got to come talk with us, because especially for businesses that have that lumpy cash flow. Last week, it was someone used the CFO talking to me, used the word chunky. And I'm like, chunky, lumpy. I think you've used the word chunky before.
I use clumpy.
Clumpy.
Clunky. I use clunky. It's clunky. It doesn't run smooth. Yeah.
It's going to help you move your business forward without just getting buried in spreadsheets and just spinning your wheels. So come and visit us at dryrun.com.
Yeah. And actually Dry Run is helping me kind of solve some problems right now too. So I'm looking forward to your continued success, right? Really like that.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for
there you go.
Pointing that out.
Yeah, right on. Hey, I got to, if you just heard that's called our mid-roll sponsor. And, that's up for sponsorship. If you want the mid-roll where we talk about you in more depth and really give your brand a push, your brand a really lift. We've had a lot of companies from across the world. Remember, we had a company in France. We had another company, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Australia. I think I forget where they're at, but
New Zealand, maybe Australia, one of the two, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a worldwide thing. But if you want your brand elevated using Mike and Blaine's platform, contact us through the website, mikeandblaine.com. You can be the mid-roll sponsor. If not, it's going to be either Dry Run or Cashflow Mike.
Which we're good with.
We're good with that too.
Two of our favorite brands.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So how do you know what to cut? How do you know?
Well, I think one thing that needs to be done is make sure you check with your team before you cut something that might affect your team. That would be one that I would say, because you don't want to find out afterwards. Hey, you cut something, you canceled something, turns out they need it really bad, and then it ends up costing a ton of money, time, energy to try and clean up the mess, right? So that's something to definitely check in on. But also, like you were saying, the big thing is, how do you kind of audit these expenses and say what is critical for us making that money for growing the business? Because those, of course, are you have to spend that money. You have to make sure the business is growing. And then you have the secondary ones that, some of them you still need. You can't get away without, but hey, push comes to shove, make sure you don't get rid of the band and get rid of like you said, the reason for people coming to you.
Yeah. Well, I made this tongue-in-cheek chart for my clients, right? It's tongue-in-cheek, but it's a guideline. So picture a quadrant, right? That's like a XY axis, but it's four different distinct positions. And one of the lines is, I need it or I don't need it, right? That's the spectrum. I need it or I don't need it. And the other line, the other axis is, I can afford it, I can't afford it. So if I need it and I can afford it, I keep it. Everything else I cut. I don't need it. I can't afford it. I need it, but I can't afford it.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
People look at it and goes, what? Am I going, yeah, we're at that point in the business where we have to cut. So yeah, you've got to figure it out. Like I call it a lifeboat strategy. Have you ever heard that? The lifeboat strategy, which is, hey, when you have what is the only things you'll keep? Who are you going to put into the lifeboat? What are you going to put in the lifeboat? Because that's all you got left. Right. So, and it gives them a visual of, hey, this is all I can take. And if you remember, we've talked about the lean business model, and I'm going to go back to that because key activities, key resources, right? What are the things I need and what are the things I have to do for this to be a business? Sometimes you got to cut all the way back to there.
Yeah. As a small, it's not as much when you're a bigger business, but as a small business, and especially when I'm talking with small business owners, I've always recommended having three different forecasts, and it's a little bit the best, worst likely, but really what it is here's my runway as it is today. If nothing sort of changes, here's my forecast with my sales forecast built in. What does our pipeline look like? How do we think the business is going to grow? And then the last one is emergency one. And you build it and you can sort of file it away, look at it quarterly. But what is that discretionary spending? Like, what can you cut out to cut to the bone to still keep your business going? Because that's the other thing is, if you cut the wrong areas or you cut too much, you can start drowning because suddenly you're not getting the sales or you're not able to fulfill the orders or, whatever that is, right? Having that forecast there, that emergency one, you can always go back to it and say, okay, we've got that 3 months or 6 months in the bank, but how can we extend it? How can we get through this? It's a really useful tool to be able to look at it and say, yeah, okay, I can get rid of some of the stuff that it's nice to have, but maybe I don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, right? That's why I try to use, like, you ever heard of common sizing as a forecasting method? All right, so common sizing is where you try to keep like your gross profit and your operating expense at the same percentage of sales, no matter what the sales level is. And so, if you're going to spend 50% of your sales in operating expense, well, at $1 million, you can spend 500,000, or at 1,000, you can only spend 250, right? So it common sizes it as you move across. And it's something that it helps you understand how things impact sales. And here's what I mean by that. When you look at like year over year, and in the new version of the app we were talking about right before this, I've got this cost analysis tool that looks at things year over year, and it looks at, hey, here's what sales did. Sales went up 10%, but your marketing expense went up 60%. and it's going to show you mismatches like that, like on, hey, and when I see the mismatches in proportion to sales, like that went up 60%. Well, did I need all 60% of those dollars, that increase, to get 10% in sales? Or was there some wasted money? Was there a shotgun effect? And that's when you use things like return on ad spend. And I ever tell you about the client I had up in Kansas City where we went through a cost cutting exercise, just kind of what we're talking about today. And the first thing I do with my clients is say, hey, you make the first pass. All right, you go through here and tell me what, our target is $100,000 for the year. So it's $10,000 a month. What can we cut? $10,000. Sometimes it could be as easy as I'm going to lay off Fred.
Sorry, Fred.
But it could be that easy. But the thing is that with that, every business owner I've ever worked with can never hit the goal, whatever the cost cutting goal is. If it's $100,000, in this particular case, he came up with $8,000 cuts. Think about that. I need 100. He comes up with 8.
Not per month, like total.
No, total. Yeah, total.
Okay. Yep. That's not quite good at.
Yeah, I'm not going, hey, dude, we're still $92,000 short of our goal. Well, think about that. And then after I get theirs, because everybody thinks everything is essential and important. When you get an advisor, a coach, use a tool like, Dry Run, the numbers are the bad guy, not the person, right? That I think everybody puts themselves as an owner is, man, if I take away that, somebody's going to be mad at me. They use that every day, but we could use Excel. We don't have to use this $3,000 a month piece of software, right? It's that type. You have to make those hard decisions, right? And that's what I think an advisor does, is it helps people make the hard decisions that they already know they have to make. You already know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll go through and we'll look at it. And what we looked at specifically was all of his ad spend. And he had about 10 different things that he was spending money on. And some of them was returning him, for every dollar he spent in ads, it was returning like 4 cents in revenue. Like on, does that make sense? No, but we got to do it. If you're a waterproofing company that people only call when their basement's flooded, why are you going to home shows, or why are you advertising on Facebook? I'm not wanting a pop-up Facebook ad or whatever for waterproofing my basement. What's going to happen is there's going to be a foot of water in my basement, and I'm going to go to Google and go, who fixes this stuff?
Yeah. Pay for Google search. That's how they're finding you. I think sometimes it's especially with marketing, too often I think that especially small businesses, the advice they get are not from very seasoned people. And it's a one size fits all. You do Facebook ads. No, like when this is an on demand sort of thing, spend the money because they're going to look you up on Google and you want to be the very top of the list. Spend the money to get that. Outside of that, no. You're probably flushing every other dime down the toilet.
Well, I think that's what you have to do, right? You have to go on the other side. Go, if I'm the customer and I'm looking for my service, where do I go, right? And if you go to the home and garden show because you're looking for decks, well, you're not looking for waterproofing, you're probably not even going to stop at that booth because you don't have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a problem it's a tricky one because it's timing. It's like a realtor, right? Like they have to spend so much money just to try and remind people that they're around, because when you finally get around to somebody selling a house, you have to probably be the most recent person that has reached out to them, right? But you can't do that. You can't do that with an entire city. As for a small company like that, you can't blanket the entire city. But on the other side, they're searching for you. They're going to search for you when it's like, I got a water leak and whatever. Put your money there. So when they search, they find.
Yeah, and I think today, and it wasn't this way when I was running restaurants and bars, I would heavily invest in Yelp. So think about your own buying habits, and that's where you need to be, because if you go there to search for stuff, that's probably where everybody else is going as well. So I think for marketing expense, your own personal experience as a consumer is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good data.
Yeah. And talking with your customers and trying to get a bit of a sense of how they shop, how they like to buy, how they found stuff. And, you're not going to get, it's not like they'll paint the picture for you, but you start to get a bit of an idea, right?
Yeah. Well, and another place we found it, and we've talked about this on this show before, is old subscriptions. Like he was paying like almost $5,000 a year for an old CRM because he didn't want to lose the data. He'd already moved. He couldn't figure out how to get the data out of the old one, and he just didn't want to lose it. And I said, well, how many times you logged into it? Well, we haven't been in it about 3 years. I'm like, what are you doing? Right. If your whole problem is you don't want to lose the data, let's export the data. Let's just get it out and then move on with our lives and save $5,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And those things are so easy to just sneak in somewhere and just keep going and going and going. And the only way, like I said, the only way you find them is you're likely have to look in your credit card statements and see, or if you're getting billed once a year, it's even sometimes harder to track. But someone has to connect the dots between, is this actually being used or not? And that's the trickier part, right?
Yeah. So when you're connecting the dots, you can't if you're coming in from the outside or even looking at your business from the outside, I would have made the wrong call if I wouldn't have talked to anybody or thought through the problem of why this company I'm working with brings in lunch every day for their employees, right? Because at face value, you're like going, yeah, stop that. It's $500 a day or whatever it is to do that. Now, they got about 100 employees, probably 30 to 40 eat on a regular basis. Not everybody eats it, but we'll say it's $500 a day, going forward. That's $2,500 a month, $10,000 a year or a month. It's like, yeah, $2,500 a week, $10,000 a month, right? That's a lot of money. So you never want to be the tallest blade of grass. You're a tall blade of grass that gets cut. That's the way I look at it. So it's that type of thing. I'm like going, at first glance, without asking a question, I would say, yeah, that needs to go. Let's stop doing that. That's just a nice to have. We don't need it to run the business. Then I make a trip out to their place. It's 8 miles outside of town. It's 20 minutes of driving. If you make your employees leave to go get food, it's 20 minutes of in and out. And sometimes they were getting people coming back from lunch late because they didn't get, service fast enough or whatever it is. Yep. And it hurt productivity. It was actually stopping the manufacturing process and hurting the production of the actual work that they were doing because they had to do so much driving. Now, all of a sudden, I'm like going, no, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Well, and it's also about keeping your staff too, because if they got to drive 8 miles every day, and up in Canada, if it was the middle of winter and that happens,
oh yeah,
you get so tired of that. People start going, maybe this isn't the best place for me to work, right? I'd rather work across the street from a restaurant. So no, there's a few different benefits in there. And in the end, it could be something that you said, sometimes some of those things are hard to quantify, but when you really look at the background, you can understand that yeah, it actually is really important to driving revenue and keeping top staff.
What's something that you pay now that you don't need it, but you still do it because it's something good for you?
We've cut a lot because I started to get, once you start digging and you find some of those things that, man, we've been using this in 2 years. I start cutting. I feel like we're in this very, running quite lean right now. And I'm nothing comes to mind right off the top. Like where if you asked me about a year ago, I'd be like, I'm getting rid of this. I'm getting rid of that. I've gotten rid of a fair bit of that. So I don't know if I've got something in the business that say is a real luxury. I think we're running pretty lean right now. So how about you?
I'm sure there's a few of these software things that I've done just to test that I need to cancel because, especially with AI. I mean, I was doing a lot of testing with different AI platforms of components and things like that. And I do it for me. Like, I mean, I pay for ChatGPT and some people do, some people don't. But I think there is a difference, right? I think there is a difference between the free version and the paid version. Do I need it?
It saves me a lot of time. For the price, it saves me a lot of time, right?
Yeah, it's like $20 a month. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, but you don't need it. But it's one of those things you're like, going, damn, my life is a whole lot better with it.
Yeah. And it is like time is money in a business, and it is a real efficiency boost. I did cancel one. I had one, I can't remember what it was called. It was another AI system that did a nice job of editing, writing and stuff. I can't remember the name of it. It's a really popular one. wasn't that expensive, and I used it for a while, and then I just thought, you know what? Came up for renewal, and I'm like, I'm not using it enough. This is not doing enough for me, and it was gone. And I'm much more on top of those, and just if it's not doing it for me, it's out the door, because it's just they just add up. Otherwise, it's like a junk drawer, right?
I mean, here's another one. I mean, I'm kind of a Microsoft guy when it comes to just tools. I like PowerPoint. I like Excel. I like those better than the Google versions, right? That's just me preference. It's only a preference. But I pay for Google and all of that because I deal with other people that use Google, and it's easier to share files, like, what you and I do, right? So it's one of those things like going, I pay for it for ease, but if I was really trying to cut and I had to cut whatever it is, $10 a month, $12, I don't even know what it is. If I had to cut that, I'm like, anyway, you're going to have to send it to OneDrive, which really super sucks. And Apple Cloud is even worse. So Google Drive is one of the better ones. Yeah, Google Drive is one of the better ones.
It's become a bit of a dumping ground for us, and I think that's hurting our efficiency a little bit. And we've got multiple systems, and they do make sense because there's a fair bit of overlap, but what they're really good at, they're just good at. So you kind of keep them around. But it is kind of annoying because it feels like the same thing that, I've got, like, we've got Google, and then we got some Microsoft, and then we got Notion, and then we got this, and then we got that, and we get like over and over all these things. And, even on the creative side, I could get software that I bought years ago. I could probably just upgrade it for cheap, and it would take over for the Adobe suite. I just stick with Adobe, and it's not inexpensive. But I'm in Photoshop and Premiere and all these, and InDesign, all this. I'm just still in it all the time. I'm comfortable with it. It's fast, it's easy. So you just kind of go, I could cut costs there, but boy, it would just be so painful, and it would actually waste a lot of time as well for me. So some things you just kind of go, yeah, I'm using it. I don't want to spend it, but I'm using it, so I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of happened to me right now. I keep wanting to cancel it, and I just don't. For whatever reason, I'm afraid to pull the trigger. I built a course called the Client Conversation Coach, and it's an interactive kind of choose your own adventure, right? It's like it guides you through how to have a conversation with a client. You go, I would ask this question. Then it tells you, there's a client that pops up and actually responds, right? Based on the quality of your question, it gives you a response, a random response. And then asks you what you would do after the client said that. So it's an interactive choose your own adventure course. Well, I did that. I built this thing in a week, and it was 250 videos. The only way I could get it done in a week was I used a product called Hey Gen, Gen, Hey Gen. And when I did it, I was the advisor, and then I would use one of their stock people as the client, right? So it looked like it was a conversation between two different people, not just me talking to me. Well, with that, I did not like Hey Jen's voice of me because I was using AI. These are videos, 250 videos that I didn't record any of it. I had ChatGPT make me a script. I threw it in there. Hey Jen made the video, and that's what it was. I hated my voice, so I used this thing called 11 Labs to clone my voice. You upload like 30 minutes of your own videos, which I got like hundreds and thousands of hours of videos. So I just didn't like the way it sounded. I'm like, that doesn't sound like me. People's going to call that out instantly. Most people don't even know the difference right now, this AI thing, because I use this 11 Labs voice cloner. And the thing is, you got to keep an active subscription, or Hey Jen won't use it, in the video.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm at the point where I haven't used either one of them since then, almost 4 or 5 months. Am I really going to do it anymore, or did I really just do it for that one project? And I've kept it around, like going, maybe not. And I guess I could always go start it up again. But that's this type of stuff that you need to look at. If you don't need it, let's just cut it.
Yeah, especially when it's just easy to get started at any point. But there's also there's only so much mental load you can take on too, right? Like it's running a business is juggling and so many things and wearing so many hats. And so there's also just, sometimes you just go with it because it's not a priority. And you just got to keep moving forward and focus on, like you said, sometimes, you're trying to save 35 cents over here, and how much time are you wasting that should be used to generate business? to find new leads, to nurture leads, right? So it's it can feel like you're saving money, but you're actually hurting the business.
All right, so I'm going to stick with my same takeaway on this: is when you cut, don't cut the things that drive your revenue, or else you're also cutting your revenue at the same time. So that's a hard thing to figure out. If I do less of this, will I get less of that? Less marketing gives me less revenue.
Yeah, no, if you cut the wrong thing, you're not going to sell the fiddle hoppers on your shelf and sit there sticking to your knit, and then you should be out there selling.
Fiddle hoppers was good. Sticking your knitting was like you kind of forced that
a little bit.
I
know, but we were at the end. You weren't going to pick it up anyway.
Hey, did I tell you? Yeah, did I tell you that I don't care if the Chiefs lose every other game now that we won the Mike Milan Bowl?
Way to talk like a true fan.
That is a true fan. I'm a true fan of the Mike Milan Bowl.
Of the Mike Milan Bowl, yeah.
That's funny.
But it's nice that it stayed with you. It's good that it stayed with you, I guess.
Yeah, but man, they're heartbreakers. Now, I had a great weekend. I went to the Baylor game on Saturday.
Yeah,
I think you know that it was. If you want to experience every emotion in a 3-hour period, you should have been at that game. Because I was mad, I was happy, I was elated, I was angry, I was crying, I was like every emotion. Because I bet there was 7 or 8 lead changes, which means, yeah, we're gonna win. Oh shit! All in like a 60-minute football game, or or is it 60 minutes? Yeah, I think it's 30-minute halves, 15, 15, 15, 15. So all in that time period, I experienced every single emotion you can have, I think.
Well, that makes it a worthwhile game. Did you guys end up winning in the end, or?
We did.
Okay, then it makes it worthwhile.
Blocked a field goal at the end. The field goal, I think, would either tied or put him ahead. I think it would have put him ahead, right, by like one point or something like that. Would have put him ahead, and we blocked the field goal at the very end,
which is rare. Were down. That is really rare. Yeah,
we were down by 2 touchdowns. I'm going, damn, we need a defensive turnover right here. 2 plays later, interception. Run back for a touchdown, pick 6. I'm like, we're back in this thing. We're back in, right? So it's just like, it was crazy, but that was the up and down. You're down 2 touchdowns. You're just mad. And I felt like the refs were just throwing flags like crazy on silliness, right? Just absolute silliness. And of course, every fan feels like that the refs are against them, but I think it's just the nature of it. Yeah.
Because they are. Always against
me. They are.
Always against my team. Yep. Always. They know who I am.
Yeah. And I think they're starting to get at the Chiefs. They used to be on the Chiefs team, but now I think they're against the Chiefs. They switched sides this year.
No, that's not a good. That's
all right. Hey, this is episode 210. 210 is in the books. Thank you for listening to Mike and Blaine.
Like, subscribe, follow, and make sure you go to Mike and Blaine, buy us a beer, and we will mention you at the start of the show as one of our valued beer sponsors.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.